Hi fellas and ladies, I'm J-Rob and I like to analyse anime so that my media A-level serves a purpose. If you enjoy my content, then I'd appreciate any possible support. With that being said, let's get into the video. Before beginning, I'd like to note that there are a couple media analysis related terms that you should probably be aware of so that we're on the same page. We have juxtaposition, the fact of two things being seen or placed close together with a contrasting effect, and symbolism, an artistic and poetic movement or style using symbolic images and indirect suggestion to express mystical ideas, emotions, and states of mind. To put it simply, it's when something's suggested rather than explicitly stated or shown. These terms I didn't really talk about in my last video, but I'm just going to list them here so you guys know. Fire Force is an anime full of interesting characters of different varieties and character archetypes. It's a very enjoyable watch, and I would personally recommend checking it out. As I mentioned before, it usually doesn't really take much to please me, therefore the main characters is often my favourite. Shinra is actually one of these, and he's probably one of the main characters that I like. He's a very interesting take on the hero archetype and how it's portrayed in the anime. By definition, a hero means a person who is admired for their courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities. Therefore, anybody can be a hero, regardless of appearance, race, gender, economic background, or just how they're perceived in society. However, due to the way the media has portrayed superheroes, if I asked you for an example of a hero in anime, you'd probably think of something like All Might, or maybe Goku. All Might being probably a more obvious choice in this character archetype, so I'll use him as an example. Look at the colours in his appearance. It's very Superman-like. Superman colours are typically what comes to mind when people think of the basic hero colours, as Superman himself is a very well-known, iconic character. He wears a bright blue and red suit, and despite the various negative meanings behind a colour like red, associating it with a brighter colour like blue can maybe make us think positively about the character, and also it links to the theme of superhero. You know, if you see those two colours together, you'd probably think superhero. Now let's look at Shinra's design. His eyes are red, and his teeth are sharp and pointy, like maybe a shark. His design is much more of a darker undertone, and from that, many wouldn't really perceive him as a good guy at first. This is also mentioned by other characters in the show. They call him Devil because of how demonic he looks and how he involuntarily smiles in inappropriate scenarios as seen during the scene where he stood in the ashes of his burning house, just smiling despite the tears bubbling in his eyes. Now let's compare someone's power with Shinra's. We don't even have to look past Fire Force for this one, as I can use Arthur Boyle as a good example. His primary colour is blue. We see his eyes glowing blue, and his Excalibur is formed from blue plasma, which links back to what I mentioned about the classic hero palette, with his colours being a brighter and purer colour scheme. This can also help us perceive him as a force of good, despite him and Shinra getting off on the wrong foot in the beginning of the series. Not to mention, Arthur's hilt being shaped like a crucifix can possibly convey a sense of purity within Arthur's character. He seems to embrace the theme of Christianity much more than Shinra, and this might help the audience realize that Arthur is being depicted as writing as the guardian angel, which might also bring appeal to the religious part of the audience, which could possibly be perceived as a marketing scheme too. This looks like a godsend in comparison to Shinra's power, where his feet light up in flames, propelling him in whichever way he wishes. Arthur's approach is much more clean and quick, like a gentle angel. For example, the scene in Season 1 where he struck the Infernal in the back, just silently, putting it out. Whereas Shinra, he's often seen flying around like a bottle rocket, spinning around violently and landing rough blows on his opponents. If you were a bystander and these two approached you without their special Fire Force attire, which one would you trust at first glance? Probably Arthur. The juxtaposition between Arthur and Shinra's powers, along with their rivalry, can be symbolized as sort of a heaven and hell. Despite their differences, however, they complement each other very well, similar to a yin and a yang. But this is all what makes Shinra so special as a character. Despite how he looks, despite how he smiles like a villain, he's one of the most ambitious and heroic characters in probably all of New Gen anime. Let's use this scene in Season 1 Episode 9 as an example. We see Shinra swooping in to save Tamaki from being killed by Rekka despite the risks. She thanks Shinra for his deeds and eventually joins Company 8. The unexpectedness the character gets when Shinra saves someone is likely them realizing, oh, he actually does want to save people, which highlights the ironic twist by Shinra's actions defying the initial assumptions others held about him. Another thing that's heavily conveyed with Shinra is the subtle instances of him enjoying his life aside fighting, showing that he's just like everyone else. He's a best friend, a group, a mentor. A lot of his casual moments, whether intentional or not, shows how human he really is. One example is the dinner scene with Company 8, where he reveals that his long-lost brother Sho might be their enemy. This gives us a good idea of how much he values his friends and vice versa, like any other normal person. Despite terms like hero and devil being thrown around, Shinra's no difficult from your typical teenager at the end of the day. I definitely feel like scenes like this when his house burned down shows how he's no different, however still gets treated horribly due to how he smiles. We can also build on the mention of his smile. As any viewer of Fire Force should know, Shinra involuntarily grins when he's nervous, causing his sharp teeth to just bare like an animal. This has caused many misunderstandings in his life when he smiled, like where his house burned down. I feel like this choice by Atsushi Okubo was to bring us closer to the character and help us sympathize with him, as I'm sure many viewers grew up with misunderstandings and problems that might connect them a little more to the character, again adding to the thought that he's just like everyone else. Another thing that his smile can convey to us is that he's deeply misunderstood. In the 3rd episode of Season 1, when Shinra first comes into contact with the Joker, he attempts to convince Shinra to fight for bad rather than good, due to the way he smiles so devilishly, not realizing that he's smiling out of fear rather than boldness. With that, we come to the end of the video. This video was definitely planned to be longer, and I'm sorry I didn't really think of more in this video, but I did thoroughly enjoy delving into Shinra, as he's one of my favorite new gen characters, and I hope you guys somewhat enjoyed it too.